welcome to Season 2, Episode 9. Today we are talking about transparency in marriage. Should there be any secrets in your marriage? Welcome to another episode of Amplified Marriage. I'm Brian.
I'm Natalie.
Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, if you're running, if you're sitting in a car, if you're sitting at your desk and you're listening to a podcast, get comfy. We are so glad that you joined us for our chat today. The topic that we're talking about today, we have labeled it, There Are No Secrets in Marriage. We want to talk to you today about being transparent in your marriage.
Right.
And why that's so important and some ways that you can be transparent in your marriage. We live in a society today where transparency in a relationship is often looked at as weakness or scoffed. I remember in the old days when we were early married, and it's actually been said to me as early as my time when I was with Shaw that we'd be finishing work and some people are going out for lunch or they're going out for dinner, whatever happened to may be, and they'd ask, "Hey, Brian, you want to come with us?" And be like, "Oh yeah, I'd love to. Just let me chat with my wife, see if she's got any planned." And I would actually get scoffed at or sneered, or they'd make comments like, "Oh, your manhood's in your wife's purse."
Right, the old ball and chain.
Yeah, the old ball and chain was something that was, but it wasn't. I didn't want to just disappear on her and not communicate with her and not tell her what I'm doing. I don't want to give her any reason to think that I'm stepping out or doing something that I shouldn't be.
Right.
Right. And so that is something that is often is not
looked down upon
because you're scoffed because you're being respectful of your wife and you're being transparent. Hey, this is what I'm doing.
That's right. I think a lot of times if with the whole ball and chain things that you went through, it was kind of like, doesn't your wife trust you? Well, yes, I do trust you. But we have certain, not guidelines, certain things set in place purposefully.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know the word that I'm looking for. It'll probably come to me
in about 5 minutes
at a later time. But it's not a bad thing. It's not that I don't trust you, that I want transparency from you.
Right.
In fact, that I think trust is built on being transparent.
Right. Absolutely. Trust is built on being transparent and open and vulnerable with your spouse.
Right.
And that's not an easy task. It's not. It doesn't come easy to me to be vulnerable. I hate showing weakness, and Natalie's had to chip away at that over the years.
And again, let's clarify, being vulnerable doesn't mean you're weak.
No. Absolutely right. And so I don't like showing those things because that's just who I am, or maybe there's some kind of wound there or something that I'm just getting to now in my old age.
Right.
But it's an interesting thing. Like teenagers and adults, you see constant videos and YouTube videos making mockery of the fact that there's something maybe on that phone that your wife doesn't want to see, or you're doing something behind your spouse's back.
Yeah.
And it's always made out to be a joke. And there's this whole other world, or we can call it there's a third world. There's your wife that you have and the things that are going on there. And then there's a whole other world that's happening out there that's separate from your spouse.
Yep.
Where it makes it seem like that you're keeping everything with them away from them, that there's an extramarital thing happening, or an addiction, or you have a gambling problem, or you just have something that's going on that you're trying to keep separate, and you don't want to be transparent because, well, one, there's a couple of reasons that happens. I think the main one is when you're just afraid of what they're going to say.
Right.
You're just afraid that, they're going to look down on you, or they're going to be upset with you, and that's fair. If you built it up and you've done something really dumb, then they're going to be upset. But hopefully and this isn't the case for all relationships, and this may not even be the case for your relationship as you're listening to this, that you know that if you say something, they're just going to leave, or they're going to be so angry because you haven't built the relationship on trust.
That's right.
And transparency.
And just being open and honest about what the real issue is.
But the truth is, if you want to have your marriage last long term, and you want to have a long-lasting, successful healthy marriage,
Yep.
healthy relationship,
Yep.
healthy friendship, you want to have healthy relationships, you have to be transparent.
Yep. There's no room for secrecy.
And so in marriage, there is no room for secrecy. So what is the very first thing that we want? These are just some of the ideas that we had towards being transparent in the marriage relationship.
Well, I think we sound like broken records. You have to talk with your spouse. And I think communicating, you're not going to get away from it. So if you're like, oh, communicating, it's like what everyone always talks about. Yeah, because I think it's one of the basic foundations of transparency is being able to come to an understanding that both of you will not keep secrets.
Like, so we decide together that we're not going to keep secrets.
Yeah, like when we were talking about and we were dating and we were engaged and things like that, like for us, divorce wasn't an option. It wasn't
Right.
It wasn't a way out because I didn't like how you didn't fold the clothes or whatever, right? Like you come from a broken family. I came from a dysfunctional family, but they were still together. Mm-hmm. And for us, it was like, this isn't a, we're not trying marriage on.
Yeah, we're not wearing it like a coat. Well, I hope this fits in the 10 years
right?
from now.
Or it's like, this is my first, I think you had said it in one of the other podcasts where this is like my trial wife and like my first marriage is a throwaway.
Yeah.
How that seems to be the mentality nowadays. For you and I, that wasn't an option.
Yeah.
And like you know, over our 19 and a half years of marriage, I mean, there's, you were not physically abusive and, like there were there weren't sort of like criteria, I guess,
Right.
for me to walk away.
Right.
So we came to a mutual understanding that we were going to be open and honest about our past and, what that looked like.
Right. And one thing that we always encourage couples to as well when we do pre-marriage counseling with everyone is be honest with each other.
Yeah.
But sometimes the level of honesty, the barometer is different for one or the other. Sometimes one has a really checkered past. They don't really want to share the full extent of maybe their sexual history or their financial history or their even their emotional wounds that they've walked through. And then they have to come to this place, especially when it comes to sexual history. They have to come to this place where if one has led a really tough life and they decide that's not what they want to do and they've were really promiscuous and all of a sudden they just want to change things around and they're like, I don't want to do that anymore. But then they find this person they want to be in a relationship with and they're not sure how much they got to share. That's actually something that you two have to decide together, work through.
You have to come to an understanding.
You have to come to that mutual understanding. You start with a mutual understanding. How is this going to work together? How are we going to do this? We're going to talk our way through this. How much do you want to know and how much are you willing to? But if you trust and love that person, you got to be as transparent as you're able.
That's right. And I think like we had talked about this in our early years, as far as sexual history, because I wanted to know what I was getting into. I wanted to know that you weren't carrying around some STD that I was going to contract and find out
That's
down
fair.
the road during,
Guess what?
like a doctor's appointment that I've got whatever.
Yeah.
So for us, that was super important to know how many partners, this kind of a thing, right? And you might be like, oh, right? But I think for that side of things, you owe it to your spouse. You owe it to your partner to be open and honest about that.
Well, and that's absolutely, and it's that one. That's one facet of it. But there's also the financial side or the emotional. Like sometimes you don't want to get into a year or into a relationship, be married for 5 years, realize that you just found out on year 5 that they had a $50,000 debt that they've been hiding from you for the last 5 years, and you're just like, whoa, what's going on? Like, right?
You can imagine how that conversation would go.
Those conversations don't go very well. And the reason we bring up this, you want to have a mutual understanding, is that we believe that your spouse or the one that you're going to be with, the one that you're married to, was created to be that one person in your life that you should have nothing to hide from.
That's right. No shame.
No shame, right? And if those things are present, it's not that your marriage can't never heal. Absolutely.
No.
We believe that God can heal all things. God healed us at the beginning of this relationship, and God has healed me many times since there. My heart is completely different than it was before, but I've had to learn how to be transparent with her on how I'm feeling, the way I respond. And because she knows me so well, and because of that transparency, she can actually call out stuff and just be like, oh, that's not right thinking. Like, you're not thinking clearly here. That's not you.
Yep.
Let's move past this.
Yeah.
Right.
I think, well, and I was just this thought triggered, mental health.
Oh yeah.
Like, it was super important to me. And you might not have even thought to ask these questions of your spouse, but we're talking about being transparent. I wanted to know, like, what sort of medical situations run in your family,
right? We're gonna end
because
up with
let's
something
be
severe.
honest. Like, if I'm going to commit lifelong, then I want to know what I'm committing to.
Absolutely.
And I want to make the choice to either be in it or not.
Right.
And then not find out after we're married that there was all of these,
Yeah, that's
where
true.
your family was crazy, right? Like, I would like to know those things beforehand.
See, I knew your family was dysfunctional, and I still wanted to be married to you.
That's right. But
and here's the other side of that, is that you're not married to their family, even though they're going to be present. I married her, and she is who I wanted to be with. The family is sometimes an addition, or a good bonus or a bad bonus, depending on the family. And so, but realize you're still marrying each other.
Yeah.
And they say you marry the family. That's not true. You're marrying each other. Yeah. Just because her mom was one way doesn't mean Natalie's that way.
No.
Right? Absolutely.
And that's true. Yeah. But something to keep in mind, though.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right? Like, if there's a line of alcoholism, that's huge.
Absolutely. And just because that ran in the family doesn't mean that can't be beaten.
No, that's
we believe
right. That doesn't mean it can't be broken.
Absolutely. Right.
Over you moving forward. But these are just things to think about when it comes to being transparent with your spouse or your partner before you get married. Right. These are things to talk about. Like, what sort of
there could be a whole podcast just on the things that come up later.
Right.
And
well,
how
and
to
there's
handle those ones. Like,
what
that's
if you have
whole...
a medical situation that happens after?
Right. There's
right. Like, that's, I mean, you're married. And so being open and honest about that too, though. Right.
So number one is start with an understanding, a mutual understanding, and that
no secrets.
No secrets. And that really helps you hold each other accountable. The next one is give your spouse the number one, numero uno priority.
Yeah, we've said this before.
We're believers. We're Christians. I'm a pastor. We believe it's God first, but the next one is going to be my wife.
Yep.
Right? And so
our kids know that.
Our kids know that. We used to do couch time in our family. Mm-hmm. When I would come home from work, I would say hi to the kids, give them all hugs, and then send them on their way. And I got 15 with
We set a timer.
Set a timer for 15 minutes so me and mom could just talk to each other. We did that for a few years, and the kids got older.
Yep.
And then you can have normal conversations with kids and not them one pulling on your leg as you're coming in the door. But, give your spouse first priority.
That's right. Your spouse should be like a best friend.
And they should have priority over your friends.
Yes.
Over your job.
That's right. Like, if there's something big happening in my life, I want to tell you. That's right. I want to tell you first.
Right.
The big news. I don't want you to be last on my list of people to tell.
And the funny thing is, whenever I have big news, I could see 10 people that I know I'm going to tell later.
Right.
Or even like my really good friends. I'd be like, I just can't wait to tell them, but I'm not going to until I see Natalie first.
That's right.
I'm going to tell Nat first. She's going to get the news, not on Facebook. This is what happened.
I would be so choked. I can't. We have found things out over Facebook
with family
with
stuff.
With family stuff that just drove me bananas.
You shouldn't have found out on Facebook.
You can just do a phone call or something like that. So your spouse comes first. The first physical person.
The next one,
your spouse.
And so give your spouse first priority. They deserve to have all the firsthand information. They deserve to celebrate with you first.
And weep with you.
We're going to say it hard truth for all of you that are listening right now. Your kids do not come before your spouse.
That's probably going to sting a lot of people.
Mic drop. Like, they don't come before your spouse because your kids eventually, hopefully, are going to leave.
And then, grow up.
Like I don't want to kick my kids out. We really love our kids and we're having a blast with them in the age they're at. But eventually they're going to
come a time when they're out.
My oldest is going to be like, Dad, I want to live on my own. I'm like, it's going to be hard for Dad to let go. I hope he's not listening to this, but it's going to be hard to let him go. But there's going to come a time I want to know my wife so that when they're out of the house, I actually can look at him.
We're
and be like,
excited.
I still know you. Hey, you want to go for a walk? Like, and not look at each other and just be estranged because we invested everything into our kids and not into each other. So what's the next one?
Preach it. Okay, so this
Preach
one
it,
here.
brother.
Have visible and open accounts financially, social media wise, all of that. I think it's super important if we're talking about being transparent and having that level of trust. There's nothing more suspicious than me walking in a room, let's say, and you quickly like Xing out of whatever, or quickly turning your phone or whatever the other way. My instant response is, what was that? Who's that? Now, you have all my passwords. And I have all of your passwords. And it's super important.
You have the one password that gets you access to all the passwords.
That's right.
But there's a reason is that you don't want to put yourself in a position for them to have any reason to doubt. And there's an obviousness to this, right? Like if I go away on trips, right? I want her to have access to all of what's happening on my text, what's happening on my cell phone, what's happening on my emails, so that she knows that she can trust me. This isn't about me
me controlling
her
or controlling.
I freely give her this. She can look at my phone anytime,
whenever I want.
And the really tough part I struggle with not this, but the attitude about this with a lot of couples is there's a subversiveness and a slyness to the things that we see on all of our social media, not our social media, but social media that's presented to us about this particular thing. Oh, you got to try and hide your phone from your spouse because you don't want them to see that you have a side girl.
Right.
Like that's a real, and there's thousands and thousands and thousands of people that watch these little ads. Like there's ads that you see even on Facebook sometimes where they pop up on TV for a website that will get you what you want, or you can sneakily do this, or you can do this around your, come on.
Like my kids.
We're almost being conditioned that it's okay. Like, and you need to be so hyper vigilant about you and your spouse, about the things that you allow on your cell phone, the things that you allow on your computer, on your TV, because it'll get in and you won't realize it. And all of a sudden you got a broken thing happening in your marriage that you weren't expecting.
Never forget, what you focus on is what you feed.
That's right.
And so if you're focused on watching, we're married and there are things we refuse to watch.
Right.
Because it's not good for us. Like that's not what I want to be entering in and feeding my soul with.
That's right.
And also back to our like phones and things like that. My children use my phone.
Right.
And so our kids don't have their own cell phones and everything like iPad wise and whatever other tablet we've got going on. It's monitored. Mm-hmm. We have the net nannies and we have all the things in place, but we have access to their accounts, like all their Discord and stuff like that. It comes to our phone. So we can see and monitor the conversations that are coming in and the conversations that are going out.
Yeah. And you may think that's a bit extreme, but
it's not in this day.
No. And we want to protect our kids until the last moment possible. I want to protect myself as well, so she can see everything that's going on. Like I was telling my sons, we were driving in the car just a few days ago and I said, I want it to be that you are two boys that know how to talk to women and people, but women, when the time comes for you to find a mate, that you can talk to them with honor, with integrity, with respect, and not do it over a cell phone. And you can actually look them in the eyes and say, hello, my name is. Right? And shake their hand if that's what they like. There's something to be had. That's a whole side thing. That's just a side thing. But
it's true though, because if I want for you to be able to look at all the things. And I know, they'd be like, oh, well, there are things that we can, there's hidden accounts. There's a hidden account that you can have on Pinterest, and there's incognito accounts and whatever. Like I forget how they word it on Pinterest, but like the things that you're not ready to reveal about yourself, you can have this hidden. It's so dumb. Being open and honest that I'm like, nope, this is not for me. Anything that's popping up, because my kids have access to me, it's like, it's enough for me to have access to my own phone that I'm like, I don't want to see this.
Right.
But my children, I certainly don't want them scrolling through.
No. They use my phone.
Whatever.
Yeah,
and then coming across really
and being like, hey, Dad,
things.
what's this? You're like, and then have to explain.
Right. How do you explain that to
inappropriateness?
Kids,
right?
never mind your spouse. I think clearly identify and have clarity in your marriage for the things, social media wise, and even finances. We are an open book. I have access to, we have joint accounts. We've had joint accounts since we were teenagers and engaged. And
we've been together for that long that we can say since we were teenagers.
Well, I was still a teenager. You were in your early 20s.
Yeah, that's right.
But
I was the old wise
we
one.
had joint accounts right from the get-go.
Right.
And we still do.
Yeah.
And we have multiple accounts, and all of them are all joint, because if something's coming out of the account, I want to know about it. And there's been times where I'm like, hey, what came out for this? And you're like, I have no idea. And then you called and straightened it out. There were things, there's a transparency there that it's not that, are you not allowed to spend money? No, that's not it at all.
We have a budget.
We have a budget, and we stick to it, and we hold each other accountable to the goals that we've set in our marriage.
Until we get hungry, we won't skip the dishes.
Right? So, and then again, that's a conversation that we have.
Yeah, right.
It's not just...
But it's transparency.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
It's not,
so have obvious and open accounts. The next one is, even as we're talking about it, you can hear one of the things, talk about everything often.
Yeah, it's not a one and done deal. And I think, that whole thing, the saying where it's like, well, I told you I loved you on the day we got married, and if it changes, I'll let you know.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
That saying, you have to talk about things regularly. Well, you just have to. It comes with being transparent, like especially when it comes to goals that you've set as a couple.
Yeah.
You need to revisit that.
Right. And talk about everything often, even as we talked about the last one, which is just having open and obvious accounts. This one really matters, because if you end up talking to someone else more than you're talking to your wife about the intimate or just some details about your life that your wife,
and details about your marriage
that your wife doesn't know, there's danger, Will Robinson, danger, red flag right around the corner. That's how, even if it's not a physical affair, you just may have started an emotional affair.
That's right.
There's nothing that anyone else knows about me and my wife and our marriage and our relationship with even my kids or anything that's going on that she doesn't know first.
Yep.
Right? Like, I've never gone to anyone else and be like, man, I'm so angry. I go to my wife like, man, I'm angry.
Yeah.
Let's walk our way through this and talk. She needs to know first. And so she can trust that when I meet with my buddy Nathan, I'm not back talking her and we're not talking trash. When what my wife did, that's not how we roll.
No.
We want to be honoring of our wives even when we're not with our wives.
That's right. And make it a practice to talk about every area of your lives together. Is communication. What's working, what's not working. Finances, like, hey,
what's working and what's not working.
Like, right, there needs to be transparency in finances.
Right.
Talk money. There has to be
Kids.
Transparency in money.
In-laws.
Kids, in-laws, your sex life.
Church.
You are sharing life together, working together as a team. It's not, there's no I in team. You've heard that before. Yeah. Right? It's a joint effort. It's both parties giving 100%.
Right. And so
when you've done all that, then you can really let your guard down.
Which is the next one. The
authenticity.
Next is authenticity. You can let your guard down. You get to be, I think, like, let's be honest, sex gets better once you know each other.
Yes.
Because you're sharing not only intimacy on emotional, physical, mental, spiritual, intelligence-wise. You're sharing all those things. You're completely open. Now you know each other really well. Sex only gets better. That's a benefit of all things. But then you have someone that, again, you can cheer with.
Yeah.
You can,
and you can weep with,
and you can, and you have that sitting at home. You can have all of those things that you see on good TV shows, proper TV shows.
Yeah.
That relationships really can be. Like marriage can be the best part of your life.
Yep. You know me, aside from God knowing me, you know me better than anyone else on the planet.
Absolutely.
And I feel like as we make new strides and as we like overcome hurdles with communication, because, you know, we haven't arrived either.
Right.
So we're on a journey as well. It just makes it, there's an intimacy that comes with knowing your spouse closely.
Right.
Yes, we have disagreements. Yes, we have hurts. We need, like, I have to forgive you on a regular basis, and you have to forgive me.
Why did you say it that way first?
On a regular basis.
Come on now, I think
it's part of the core, but I've opened myself up to you to allow you to see all of my flaws, all of my vulnerabilities, the areas that I need work in. I've not hidden that from you. I've chosen to allow you to see those deep voids, I guess you could say, in my heart, because it serves a far greater purpose, in my opinion, to be transparent. I want you to see all of me, not just the bits and pieces, like the highlight reel.
Right, like, which is what we get on Instagram and Facebook, is the best things of everything.
That's
and
not being transparent.
No, and even when they're trying to be transparent, it's still set up transparent. It's not real transparent.
That's right.
Right? And so when we really allow each other all of our quirks and all of our flaws and all of our mistakes and all of our vulnerabilities, when we allow all of those things to come out, and then our spouse knows us because we've been transparent and we love each other unconditionally for who we are, what we are, or who we are is we are imperfect people who understand perfect love.
Right. And the perfect love that comes from a relationship with God, because in my own strength, there's no way that I can love you like that.
Right. And there's no way I can love you the way that even as a husband, how I'm called to love and honor my wife, I can't do that without God's strength.
That's right.
Right. And so if this is a really tough topic, when you tell people things like this, like, hey, you got to be more transparent, when everything in society is telling us to be less transparent.
That's right. Hide.
Because
they won't like you if they knew you.
Yeah. Right. And you don't want to show your shame. You just and the things that you're struggling with because of you just don't want people to know.
Yeah.
Like, because you don't want them to look down on you or look at you differently than you did before. Mm-hmm. Right. And so this was a really good topic.
That's right. I think it's a good reminder for us in our own marriage of, hey, like, we need to double check that we're being transparent
in all things,
right? And that we've not kind of slipped into patterns that are unhealthy.
Yeah, this is really good. If you like our podcast, and you've been listening to us and you've been tracking with us and you've been applying some of these principles to your relationship, we really appreciate it. It means a lot when you share it and you let people know about the Amplified Marriage podcast. You can follow us on Instagram and on Facebook. You can also connect with us through Instagram and through Facebook. Email if there's any topic or question or anything you would like us to discuss. You can email us at amplifiedmarriage@gmail.com. You can also connect with us through our website, amplifiedmarriage.com. And you have heard us say this many times before. We believe with all of our heart, we believe that your marriage, the one that you're in currently that you may be struggling with or trying to refresh, we believe that your marriage can be reset,
refreshed,
recharged,
and restored.
Thanks so much for joining us today.
Talk to you soon.